We got married officially at around 10:30. So 24 plus about roughly 6. So about 30 hours.
Yeah. And we were up by 5 a.m. So I was a tired bride. I got a cold like 2 days before the wedding. So I woke up, I'm sleepy still, I'm all stuffed up. But I think the most significant thing about the day was I just remember how my bridesmaids and my friends pulled together. You know, like I woke up, someone had breakfast for me. And someone was saying, get in the shower and your stuff is already in the bathroom. I'll shower, get out, someone is there, you know, here's lotion. Like everything was just, everyone really pulled in, everyone knew I hadn't slept enough. So people really came through, and that was the most memorable experience as far as getting.
All I remember is time flew. Funny enough, I set the alarm clock for 5:30 a.m. What I didn't realize is I'd set it for 5:30 a.m. on Friday. So luckily enough, she doesn't know that part. Yeah. Luckily enough, the videographer was supposed to be there really early in the morning. So she actually was my alarm clock.
And there was a rushing process, you know, the women have come, they're singing, my hair is not done. So it's, you know, the poor stylist who were rushing him, you know. And he did an amazing job still.
Best man, being from Tanzania, had to be accompanied by my brother-in-law who's from Kenya, since he understands the traditions. They had to leave to go pick her up. So they left right around 7 o'clock, and at that point the main thing was trying to make sure the time was managed correctly to make sure that they were back at St. Andrew's Church by 10 a.m.
My best mate was there with me 24/7. She's been my best friend of 18 years. My mother actually put the veil on me. And she was just telling me, you look very beautiful, you know, I'm so proud of you. And we had a brief moment right before we were rushed out because the ladies had been singing for a while. Being handed over was bittersweet in the sense that, you know, I'm leaving my family. That's a bitter part, but then the sweet part is I'm starting a new life with the man of my dreams. So it was just surreal. It's like one thing neutralized another thing. So. I was worried about making it on time. St. Andrews is very strict. They had told us if you get here late, there's a wedding after you, so we will literally kick you out of church. So I was worried about that too. We were running a bit late, but we actually got to the parking lot at 10, and the church was to start at 10.
Anything between 5:30 and 10 o'clock was pretty much a blur to me. Everything was just fast. But I think that also worked to the better because I didn't have time to sit down and get cold feet or get nervous. It was bam, bam, bam. We are the church. The pastor is beckoning us to start the bridal march, and before you knew it, we were saying our vows. I felt so much at ease at that point. I knew at this point, whatever is not in place cannot be in place, and it was time to enjoy the day, whichever way it came. And so I just went ahead and opened up my heart, and the rest was history.
My father is deceased. He passed away in 1994. To be there, but he wasn't, and it was a sad feeling that he wasn't there. I would have loved to walk down the aisle with my mom and dad, but yeah, my mom has been there. She's been mom and dad for a very long time, so he's been very well represented, and my uncles were there, his brothers, and they've really stood in, and even with the wedding planning and the wedding. It's pretty much like thanking God, saying, thank you for keeping this one for me. Like after everything, in the dating world, you wait and you wonder, oh my God, am I ever gonna settle down? Am I ever gonna find, the one? So it's like a prayer thanking God, saying, this is the one you kept for me. Thank you for bringing him. It's just an appreciation, saying this is the day. Looking at Philip and thinking, oh my God, this is it. We're actually doing this. We've been planning for a whole year. This is it. It was just surreal.
She made sure, and I've carried it as we were traveling here, but I never ever got to see the dress up until she was walking up the aisle, and it was amazing. I had to take so many deep breaths. I had to take deep breaths, control my emotions. She looked beautiful, and at some point I would look at her, kind of look away a little bit, look back at her, because if I kept staring at her, I knew the emotions would have taken over. And so I just tried to control the whole thing, and I didn't think people noticed, but my sister and my niece on the other side could almost hear my breathing from what they said, and they were actually more emotional at that point than I was. And at that point, I just felt like I was in heaven, pretty much.
I feel that you're gonna take you and the church in my life.
And so as we're saying the vows, that's probably the biggest commitment you can ever make in your life to anybody. And so it was just me looking into her eyes and making her understand that I am telling you this and I mean it, in front of all these people and in front of God. And so that whole process meant so much to me, more than anything else that occurred after. Forget the reception, forget everything else. That particular 5 to 10 minutes was the most important moment of the day for me. And it just worked out excellently.
I promise before God and His congregation to be a loving, dutiful, and faithful wife to you until death shall separate us. Amen. I think more amazed at how everything worked so well. My heart is beating so fast. I'm trying to tell myself, don't cry. I was so worried I was going to cry. And, it had the same thing. I was taking deep breaths, I was worried I was going to break down when I was saying the vows. So I was trying to stay calm, try not to get overwhelmed, just taking in the moment. at that point I was more relaxed. It was, like you say, this was the most significant part of the whole wedding, is for us to get married.
Talking about the difference between contracts and covenants, so he was going in depth. A contract is legal binding, but a covenant is a higher level. But because when you're making a covenant, for instance, marriage, it's not like just a legal document. This is a promise before God. This is a promise before people. So that is something that is pretty much written in heaven. And so he was explaining that people should not take it lightly. It's not something you just do and then you decide, hey, this has gotten too tough, let me jump off the ship.
Yes.
It's a covenant, just like they were doing it in the Old Testament. It's pretty much more than a promise. It's not a contract, it's a promise and a vow in front of God that you definitely have to observe for the rest of your life.
I think he went into divorce and how people just think when the marriage gets tough, you can jump ship. So he was saying this is a covenant, this is forever. And then he also talked about the different levels of love.
Catherine Ambicia did a great job. She did the decor as well. And it was beautiful.
It was.
My parents had come to visit the US in 2012, and in June of 2012 we were just taking them to different cities as part of their visit. So one of the places we stopped by was Kansas City in Kansas to visit one of my brother-in-law's brothers. And while we were there, one of those evenings we decided to go out to a restaurant, and a mutual friend introduced me to Sonny. Now the funny thing is, when my dad had come over that particular afternoon, he was asking me the questions parents typically ask when you start becoming of age. So he was asking me whether I have someone serious that I am seeing, the marriage situation, whether I want kids and that kind of thing. And at the point I told him I really was not seeing anybody serious at the moment. And I remember something that stood out to me that day, because he stressed that you should not go out looking. A good wife comes from the Lord, and he will somehow make your paths cross in life. And when we went out that evening, we were being introduced to several ladies who were sat at a table. For some reason, once they said hello to Anne, I just got stuck there. Like, I walked away since we did not want to intrude in their conversation. However, I just kept wanting to know more about her. I don't know whether it was the smile or the dimples, but something stuck. And the rest is history after that. I just felt comfortable in her presence. And so later on, I requested if I could contact her. And when she said yes, I was very excited, and we started texting and talking. And slowly by slowly, our friendship blossomed, and it has developed to where we are today. My original plan was to propose on her birthday, which is October 9th. Now, unfortunately, on that day, we were flying all day. We left North Carolina early in the morning, and we did not get to Hawaii until really late at night. It's a long trip. And so once we had our activities planned out the very first day, the first thing we did that morning was hike the Diamond Crater. It's a very beautiful view up there, and that was one of the places I was thinking of doing it. However, to me it was not intimate enough yet. That afternoon, I knew we were going to take a catamaran sail, and it was going to be an evening sail, like a sunset cruise, and I knew that was going to be it. We were going to be out in the water. And so what I did was I called the crew before we left, way before we left, about 3 hours. I asked them if it was okay for me to do it then. They said yes.
Congratulations.
All she could say was, "Oh my God." And I asked her, "Hey, the answer is yes or no?" And so she screamed yes, and I was excited about that.
My heart was beating so fast. I'm thinking, I need to call mom, I need to call my sisters, you know. It was just a mixture of emotions, excitement, you know, just, it was surreal. I wanted to say, somebody pinch me because, you know, yeah. And this is where family is. I love that, you know, the women come and they sing, and to me that element is just so important. You feel like, you know, you're home, and they really go above and beyond to help you celebrate. In the US, it's not as traditional. They don't have that culture. And I've seen US weddings, it's so structured and so, you know, but here it's just, there's that home feeling, you're home.
I mean, the wedding's there, you go to church, there's a particular structure in church, you go to the reception, then it's over. But here, you have they go pick up, the women go pick her up, there's a tradition to it. Then she comes to church, we have the wedding, then when we come to the reception, my mom and the other women have to come get her from the car to welcome her in. Then there's the dancing. You don't have a lot of that. Then, you know, the language, the traditions, the people who you're dealing with are people you know for years. It just felt like this was the right place to do it. I think the wedding registry thing is still new in Kenya. And so essentially, that was set up primarily for our friends there and family there. Because most people automatically, when you invite them to a wedding, they normally ask you where you registered. So that's essentially why we had the registry in the US.
Sets of pots and pans, rice cookers, crock pots. We got a lot of stuff. And then from this side we got cash because of traveling back. Yeah. As actually Safari Park was supposed to have set up, I brought my own cake topper, and then it was a carriage that lights up. So I was telling Philip, that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, the horses had been put on different cakes because it's a horse. It's two horses and a carriage, so they're all supposed to be on the top. So this one horse had been separated, and another one separated, and then it was just the carriage, and the lights were not on. So thank God, as soon as I sat down, my wedding planner came to me and said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No, the cake does not look right. That thing needs to be lit up." And she ran over and she brought it to me, and I was fixing it really quickly, and then she took it back. So
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Nothing happens as planned on your wedding day. That's one thing I've learned to your wedding night. So just go with the flow. If it doesn't happen that night, set it up for a different night. I was prepared, and then by 6 p.m. I just knew this is not happening. You come and you're just throwing the petals off the bed, like I just want to sleep.
Let me just say, I was tired as well. So, you know, and sometimes you want to do certain things when you're in a more relaxed state. So by the time we were coming to bed, we were up for almost 24 hours. And I just don't think it was reasonable enough to expect anything more at that point. I think we were both at the point of, we felt like we just dropped a load off our back and everybody just wanted to relax. So as soon as the head hit the pillow, I was probably up for another minute or two and I blacked out as well. Everything together from start to finish, we ran about maybe 2 million shillings total.
You know, we were like, we're not going into debt because of the wedding. You know, at the end of the day, it's a one-day event. You want it to be special, but then you don't want to overextend, and then you're left with bills, and so.
I think it was more important for us to focus on the marriage after.
Exactly.
We love traveling, and as much as we wanted to have this huge, extravagant wedding, I think small and intimate was more important to us. That way, even after that, we get to actually continue traveling and seeing the world, and that's more important to us than just blowing up a bunch of money on one day. What I've learned about the whole wedding planning process, number one, listen to each other. Listen to each other a lot. Because what happens is, it's probably the first major project you partake in as a couple. You know, you plan vacations, you plan dates, but this right here is the first major project because it involves a huge budget, it involves so many family members, it involves so many small things all in one day. So listen to each other, consult each other, and don't make a decision on behalf of the other person without asking them and understanding exactly what they need. Now, when it comes to wedding things, it's more of a bride thing. And sometimes she would ask me a question about something that I have no clue. And I'd just be like, hey, if it's that important to you, let's go ahead and do it. It may not make sense to me, but if it's important to her, I felt like it was important for us to, you know, for us to have it in there. Because at the end of the day, I wanted her, and if she was not happy, it will not have been a happy day for me. So it was more important for me to make sure that when she walks in, she just lights up with this, you know, this beautiful smile. And then I knew, hey, mambo sawa sawa. So listen to each other. Don't overspend. You know, just try and be logical about it. You know, just make sure you do it within your means. Everybody's means is different. You know?
A lady at my bridal shower actually told me that, and it made a lot of sense. She said a wedding is a one-day party. A marriage is forever. So I think just don't let the one-day party ruin the forever. Focus on what's important, and that's the bride and groom getting joined and the marriage after.